It's such a pleasure to introduce a new guest each week here at Should Have Listened to My Mother. There's a lot to learn from the conversation we're going to have in just a moment. But I'd like to start off by telling you how much everyone here at Should Have Listened to My Mother appreciates your loyalty, your comments, your subscriptions, your support, and your likes on social media. You can find us anywhere and everywhere. And please remember to leave a review. This conversation I'm about to have with Michael Anthony is the kind of conversation one would hope to never have to have with a friend or a loved one. Yet, by having these heart wrenching conversations and airing the truth, perhaps many will feel less alone or isolated and come to realize that there is a way to move forward. There's no need to allow your past to haunt you. Michael knows that trauma takes your identity away. Donna, Michael's mother, was emotionally, physically, spiritually, sexually abusive. She was a drug addict and alcoholic, manic depressive, bipolar, schizophrenic, suicidal, and more. Michael grew up in Indianapolis. In the 80s and 90s, throughout his childhood, he was homeless and by age 12, a drug addict. He knows all too well about self-sabotage. His mom was in and out of rehab. She had been a victim of abuse, and Michael shares that hurt people hurt people. Hence the tragic years of Michael's childhood. Today, Michael Anthony is an advocate for adult survivors of childhood trauma, an award-winning speaker, a coach, best-selling author, and podcast host, and founder of Think Unbroken. Hi, Michael. Welcome to Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Thank you, my friend. I'm excited to be here with you.
There's a lot to uncover. And as I right out of the gate when we started chatting before recording, I so applaud your courage and your strength, because I know, well, just from what I've read in my research, that you were pretty much down at the bottom of a big barrel going nowhere. And you decided to turn your life around. The story that I read was you were sitting in your car and you just said, this has to change. And I so applaud you for this. And there are so many men and women who are survivors and could use your help. So your podcast I think you have over 200 downloads. You're all over the world. You decided to change your life. You stumbled along the way. Yes, you made a lot of money. Then you lost it. You were in debt. This has many arcs and valleys and hills to your storyline. So I have a hard time even asking you to talk about your mother, Donna, because of how she treated you. But in a couple of words, how do you describe your mother, Donna?
Hurt person. You know, it's funny because I was sitting in my therapist's office, I was like 32 or 33, somewhere around there. And I was sitting across from him, same office, same cup of chamomile tea, same chair for years. And I looked across to him one day and I was just like, I am so tired of seeing your face, man. I am done with this. I cannot believe that I'm still dealing with this. And he said something to me that really actually transformed my life and my relationship with my mother, even though she'd been dead for almost a decade at this point, because she died from an overdose. Ultimately lost both of her legs. She was like in a halfway house thing. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
And he said, have you ever stopped to think about what your mother's childhood was like? And it was like, holy shit. Yeah. And so that's why I said a hurt person. I mean, God, how tortured must a person be to walk down that path, to choose drugs and alcohol over her children, to be married 6 times, to ultimately destroy everything that she touched. And this is one of the things I talk to about my clients. We often find ourselves addicted to chaos. Like that's
So
normal.
that's all you know. That's all you know,
Yeah.
right?
And that's all she knew. And she never doing this work. I don't Jackie, I don't think people understand how hard this work is to change the arc of your life. And I watched my mother. I went to AA for the first time. I was 7 years old next to her. And as we sat there, she goes, I'm here because of you. Like I bore witness to the chaos that was in her mind, all the rehab, all the times that she chose drugs and alcohol over paying the rent, right? We got evicted more times than I can even count. I mean, talk about this disastrous childhood on top of the fact that, she cut off my finger when I was 4 years old. Like that path only occurs when you are hurt yourself. And so I sat there, and the reason that's my answer to your question is because that's the reality I came to sit. And I was like, oh, she got hurt. She was a hurt person. Like her experience in life was so unbelievably painful that she didn't know anything different.
Did you ever, well, you knew one grandmother, she eventually adopted you, but was
Mhm.
it all her genetic, her illnesses, the alcoholism, the mental imbalance, all of that? Is it
Ye-
genetically in her family?
Yeah, for sure. Like my grandmother, like as much as it was a godsend for her to adopt me, she was a racist white lady from a town in Tennessee you never heard of. And I'm biracial. I'm black and white. And so imagine the insane mind game that's happening.
No
Right? You're
good.
you're 12 years old and you're told you're not good enough as a human being because of the color of your skin from your own blood, right? But my grandmother was an addict, like viciously. Like this woman drank like 10 Pabst Blue Ribbons a day, chain smoked Misty Slim 120s. Right? She was like in it. And my uncles, my aunts, everyone, the lineage of my family is alcoholics and drug addicts, as far back as we can count in the genealogy, right? I'm sure if we go back to the 1500s, we had a bunch of winos in there, right? And so it is. And it's funny because it's really stopped with my brothers and my sister and I, right? And I rarely, if ever, drink. My brothers, I'm sure they're okay with me sharing it. They've walked down the journey of sobriety, and we look at this thing around drugs and alcohol, and our whole generation of people our age are starting to step away from it. We see what it's done to our parents and our parents' parents. So, that's
Well, it did to your
hereditary and genetic.
childhood. It has
Yeah.
completely affected you. Um, w if your mom was ever happy, what was something that she liked to do with you? Do you have any wonderful memories of your mom?
Yeah, there's two things that I actually think about that actually really play a factor. It's the love of movies. Like I love film, and music. And those two things were always the things that kind of bonded.
It was an escape, right, from her
For
life,
sure.
her brain, everything would maybe just go to a happier place.
Yeah, but it wasn't like let's sit down and do a puzzle. Like that wasn't a thing,
Mm,
you know.
yeah. So, we know your backstory, and it wasn't a straight trajectory to healing and success. Because I think you have to have the valleys, right? You gotta go down,
Yes.
you gotta come back. That's part of the healing process. And I want to concentrate as using Donna as your impetus, um, and all your stepfather and all these people that wanted to just stomp on you and hold you down. Um, other than your therapist, who else stands out in your life? I know you have a number of good buddies that were there for you. How does someone who knows exactly, it's like they can feel it in their pores, everything, they can totally feel and sense and touch everything that you're saying. Where do you begin?
Um, well, I think that a lot of life is around the decisions that we make. And so many of those decisions are subconscious.
Mhm.
And I think that you have to be able to bring awareness to what's going on. And so you hear the old adage, the pen is mightier than the sword. And I'm a huge proponent of you take all the chaos in your head and you just write it down till it starts to like look like something, right? And then from there you can start kind of navigating this. But, you know, Jackie, I think that you may agree with this. As human beings, we know what we're supposed to do. Like, like example, you're not supposed to get high every day. You're not supposed to get drunk. You're not supposed to smoke cigarettes. Like, maybe it'd be okay to treat yourself like you cared about yourself. And so I think you start there. What would someone who cared about themselves do today? And that's a
Right,
really, really hard conversation.
but they're not only trying to figure that out, but they're also trying to figure out how they can eat, where
Yes.
they're gonna get bathed, where how do
Hmm.
they act normal? They're embarrassed by their
Yeah.
situation, they're intimidated by others, people look at them funny, they don't take them seriously. You were an
Hmm.
athlete, you knew you were supposed to show up more than you did, but you did.
Hmm.
There's
Yeah.
so many more things involved,
Now,
but writing things down is huge because it's uncluttering all that's
yes.
going on in here.
And now you're getting into the crux of it where we can go deeper, right? Because those are the unravelings of it, right? You take all these chaotic thoughts, you look at them and you go, oh my God, shame, guilt, disgust, envy, lust, greed, pain, hurt, loss. And then you're like, I am less than, right? And so now you're playing this game with yourself where you're trying to build not only courage, but confidence, right?
Yeah.
How in the hell do you believe in yourself if you've always been told that you're nothing? Well, at the beginning, and was me, eh, I'm in this rock bottom. I'm 350 pounds, smoking 2 packs a day, drinking myself to sleep. It was like, I'm going to brush my teeth today. Like, that is such an
That
insane
was an
thought process.
accomplishment.
It was
That was
like,
amazing thing that you were able to brush your teeth
it
today.
was like, if I can't kill myself and brush my teeth today, maybe I won. Right. And that's how it is at the beginning for a lot of people. And I think that this idea of like pull yourself out of it, while there's some truth to it, because life changes in your actions, not in your thoughts, right?
Yes, I agree
You
with
want
that.
to change your life, you have to do something. Sometimes doing something is like, I haven't bathed in 3 days. I'm going to take a shower and go outside. And then it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to walk 5 miles. And that might even be a stretch. So I'm going to walk around the block and back, right?
Right.
And then it's really about evaluating what do you want. People won't even write their goals because they're so scared, right? And I will be willing to contend with this until the day I die. People are more afraid of success than they are of failure. And so the idea that you could have a
Mm.
life better than what you come from is so foreign to people. Because, Jack, here, think about the subconscious impact of growing up and watching poverty, abuse, homelessness, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, spiritual, religious abuse, and then walk into the world and tell me how the hell you're supposed to be normal.
Right, with a smile on your face as though
And
you get 3
and
warm meals at a home and love and
and
support.
pretend that nothing is wrong all the time. And so the thing that happens is now your brain is this mechanism built for survival and it's evaluating everything, but it's also based on known experience. And so if your brain is like, I know chaos and I've learned how to survive and thrive in chaos, the idea that your life could be peaceful and full of love and harmony and joy and people who care about you and success and family and friends and community, your brain's
Wow.
like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Let's go smoke some crack. That sounds
Right,
way
it's
better
way
than all
easier.
that, right? And so
It's so complicated.
it is complicated. And this is why you have to begin with awareness. You really have to get to this place where you're like, where am I in this moment? And that's the thing people are most afraid of because that's shadowed with shame and guilt. And I watched my mother go to rehab literally like 15 times, to countless AA meetings, to an ungodly number of therapist sessions, and nothing shifted for her because the action required to change your life is so much greater than the thought of changing your life. Because the actions required mean that your identity has to shift.
Yeah.
And shifting an identity is very difficult because we're so latched on to this is who I am. And becoming you is the hardest thing that you ever do.
Did your mom ever have anyone, I'm sure I hope she had someone who was s a non-addict, someone who was healthy and strong, someone one-on-one that she could talk to that was trying to guide her? Did she have a steady therapist? Did she, or was it just crash and burn through all of resources and people?
Yeah,
And
it was always just chaos. I mean, the only time I remember her ever having like continuity in anything was I think she had a court assigned therapist when she lost custody of us. That's it. That's my only memory of that. So I have no idea.
did she love you?
I'm sure she did. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, what human generally speaking, I don't know because I don't know all the humans, but what human generally speaking doesn't love their children?
And she was sick, so she was
Yeah.
incapable.
She was a insane person. Like to a definition, right? Suicidal, manic depressive, bipolar. She was on a bajillion medications, which probably actually made things worse, right? And she was addicted to pharmaceuticals. And, it's like how to ask like did she love me? I'm like I imagine so. But she was also literally insane. So I don't know. I don't know what that looks like through that window.
Do you believe that she's at peace now?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that you're not a drug addict in the afterlife.
I don't believe that.
That sounds
It's
horrible.
it's clean slate in my mind,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
rid of
And,
all your past karma and a new beginning.
I mean, I wish
Wow.
peace upon everyone who suffers.
Yeah.
I mean, this journey is not easy, and I witnessed these moments with her where the first time she overdosed, I'm the one who was there who called 911.
At what age?
I was like 8. Imagine the chaos in my head around that. And that would not be the last time, by the way. And it's like you suffer, suffer, suffer. I feel like when she died, like finally it was over for her, like the pain. But what was really interesting is when I was 18 years old, I told her I'm never going to talk to you again. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I will tell you with certainty, the only reason I made it this far in life is because at 18 I said I'm never talking to you again. And that was the first time I felt free of all the chaos of what that thing was. Right. So, my hope is that her peace came when she died. My hope is that, and I think everyone finds peace when they die,
Did you love
and
her? Did you love your mom?
yeah, until I didn't, and then there was a reconciliation in that. Forgiveness is a big part of this journey.
Right, you
And
eventually have to let it all go in order for yourself to move forward, right?
well, what happened is one day I just realized, instead of being a victim, which is fair, I think everyone's victimhood is fully entitled to them. The reality is life is as hard as we think it is. And, to walk around, for those who can see on video, this finger, multiple discolorations, 5 surgeries, skin graft, missing half like, how do you not hate someone who mutilates you? And then when you get molested in church, tells you not to talk about it. And then just all of the gaslighting and emotional abuse that comes along with it. So yeah, like 15, 16, 17, I'm like, I hate you, I can't stand you, whatever. Fast forward late 20s, early 30s, I start to have these awakenings, the therapy, the reconciliations, and I'm like, oh, I understand. And that was always the missing piece of the puzzle because I would just be like, you're an addict and you're choosing that over us, which is true, but I didn't understand what really happens to humans until they walk down this path of the
Path,
healing journey.
and you walk down it yourself.
And I walked down it and it led to this place where I reconciled the reality. And it's the life that I had, not the life that I wanted, that I had to reconcile and let go of. Because I wanted love and like the mom that everybody had, not the mom who, when I won wrestling tournaments, would fall down the stairs drunk. Right. It was, and so getting to this place where you can allow forgiveness, and Jackie, it's so hard because you're
It's
like, I want to
hard.
rip you apart. You took everything from me. And I got to this moment where I remember I'm looking to close the loop on this finger thing. I'm looking down at my finger, this shame that I hid for years, forever. People would ask me what happened to your hand. And I'd be like, oh, like if something I fell, I got cut, just whatever story I could think of. And then one day I actually told the truth. My, to give you
Oh my
context,
gosh, I just breathed a little bit there. Just
well,
that breath, the sigh of relief, being open about something, about
because the
what you
truth will set you
experienced.
free.
Yeah.
And I had this moment and I realized, how can I use this for me instead of against me? And that was the moment that the victimhood and the excuse making shifted, and I became this person that I am today.
Yeah.
And in that, that was where the reconciliation with my mother lived, of me being like, I get it. I don't know that I'll ever forgive the act, but I forgive you as a person. And it helps me fucking sleep at night.
It's hard enough for some people to take that scary step forward to better
Hmm.
themselves, let alone what you have experienced your entire life. So you have written a book. You have 2 million people have downloaded your podcast. You have meetings and you are a coach. And now I want to spend some time letting people know how to find you. Michael Anthony or Michael Unbroken is your social media, is where people can find you, correct?
Yeah. I am everywhere at Michael
You're everywhere.
Unbroken on all the
Mhm.
socials. And then if you go to thinkunbroken.com, you'll find multiple of the books that I've written. You'll find now almost 800 episodes of the podcast. You'll find tons of free resources, online events. I mean, I host free events almost weekly. I mean, there's a
Online.
ton. Yeah, yeah. And I'll
Okay.
tell you this too. We do in-person stuff too, when we're not traveling the world. But online is always easy because it's accessible for everybody.
And your book is called Understanding and Overcoming Childhood Trauma. They can find that everywhere, correct?
Yep.
Michael hosts the podcast, the Michael Unbroken podcast, teaches at Think Unbroken Academy, and is on a mission to create change in the world. I read recently globally, 1 in 4 men are not raised by their father. And that's another issue that you had to consider in your upbringing.
Hmm.
Is it, do you get the sense that that is changing, improving, or what can we do to get that message out to
I
keep
mean,
fathers? That's another whole
that's a
conversation.
whole 2 hour conversation, and it's right. But I mean, yes, and that's why I host a weekly Men's Monday. It's called Unbroken Men. If you go to
Yay.
unbrokenmen.com, and we have a weekly meeting with just men, because men need a place. And one of the hardest parts of my journey, we don't have time to get into it, but was really like stepping into masculine energy and being a man. So difficult. And I think that unfortunately that is a burdensome experience for those 3 of 4 boys who are growing up without fathers.
Are your brothers on the same path as you are?
Yeah, my brothers are, it's a unbelievable the life that they're able to have. Now they're not on the same path. They're service based. One's in the Navy, one retired from the Army. Their paths are very different than mine, but I mean,
But,
I'm seeping in pride for them.
okay. And your sister, too, you mentioned,
Yeah,
is,
yeah. Yeah, the
so you
fact
know
that
it
none of
worked.
us are
It's working for
homeless.
you. Yeah, none are
Yeah, and the
homeless.
fact that none of us are homeless under a bridge right now is like unbelievable. It's like literally unbelievable.
And if someone says, yeah, I know I got to deal with this, but it's going to take me a long time. You've been doing this for decade, 20 years,
My
trying to
own
get,
personal journey, like taking it seriously, 15 years. But I
yeah.
walked into therapy for the first time when I was 7 years old.
How did you know to do that?
Well, because I got molested at church and they made me.
Oh, right.
So I didn't know to do that. Right.
Who's
And so
they? The church made you, the school made
I
you,
don't even remember. I think it was
you
the
know,
school. I don't remember.
mm,
But here's what I'll tell you. Like the journey, like you've got to just make a decision whether or not you're going to walk this path. If you're tired of your life being a disaster, you're tired of all the things that you're going through, you're tired of feeling like a victim. And again, I'm not taking anyone's victimhood away. I get it, but at some point, you've got to decide whether or not you're going to take control of your life. And that is the hardest thing that you're going to have to do in this life,
stop
is choose
lying,
yourself.
stop cheating people that
Yeah.
love you, taking advantage of people that love you.
Mhm.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I'm so happy we got a chance to have this conversation. Thank you so much. Michael Anthony, you can find him all over. Michael Anthony, Michael Unbroken, and I applaud all that you're doing. And please, if anyone is listening and you know someone that is in need of help, please forward them this information and have them get in touch with Michael, because I know he'll be a big help. At least, stepping stones, right? One step at a time. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.